obviously it's been reported by multiple media outlets that the Canelo versus Caleb Plant fight has fallen through. Now, the reason why this fight has fallen through is obviously because a lot of people have saying that obviously Caleb Plant has come out and said that it's because Canelo's been a bit of a diva and he wants a bit of everything. In my opinion, this fight, if you look at it from the perspective of Canelo has got one of the best resumes in boxing at this point. He's fought everyone, and the fact that he's fought everyone means he's had to go in there against multiple promotions, multiple different networks, and he's managed to negotiate himself in a position where he's been able to get these fights. Now, if you look at like PBC, not to throw any shade on them, but the reality is that a lot of fights that could have happened have not happened underneath them. Now, I could give various examples of this. Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua, that's a fight that they tried to make and it didn't happen under the PBC. Another example is even when Deontay Wilder was offered 100 million, for whatever reason that fight didn't happen. Obviously you got the Demetrius Andrade versus Demetrius Andrade and Danny Jacobs. They both wanted to fight the Charlos and that fight still hasn't happened. There's many examples of PBC fighters not fighting fighters outside of their stable. Now, in my opinion, I'm not saying Canelo's not to blame. He probably has had some diva-ish demands, and that comes along with being a cash cow. And let's just be real, in terms of marketability, the cash cow in terms of who's got the most leverage at this point in their career is clearly Canelo. Caleb Plant is a world titleist and he's a respected world titleist, but he doesn't draw as much of a crowd as Canelo does. It's not even close. I would actually argue that his last opponent, Billy Joe Saunders, is more well known than Caleb Plant is. Caleb Plant is respected and he is well liked by the American boxing public, but he's not as marketable as Canelo is. So in terms of who's going to be bringing in most of the money, it's clearly going to be Canelo. So with that comes with the fact that Canelo knows his value. He knows the leverage that he has in negotiations, and because he knows the leverage that he has, he's going to be more than willing to exercise this leverage and be a bit diva-ish. And this comes with being a cash cow. Most cash cows do try to exercise their ability to be a cash cow, and they try to maximize their value and try to get as much out of it as they can. There's only one fighter that I've seen that does do that to some extent, but not as much, and that's probably AJ. AJ is a fighter that's in his first world title fight, he was willing to sacrifice a bigger paycheck to fight Charles Martin. Charles Martin, I think, made 6 million in that fight. AJ could have commanded more because at that time he was a way bigger star than Charles Martin was. Yet he just decided to take the fight. Now, that's not very common. If you look at most cash cows, they try to maximize their positions, and it's the same thing that happened with Mayweather. When Mayweather fought Canelo, Mayweather tried maximizing his position. He made Canelo come in at a catch weight, which weakened him. He made Canelo wear the gloves that he wanted. He chose the ring size. He chose everything, and obviously he managed to beat Canelo that night as well. And obviously Canelo was a little bit green back then. But my point is this: being a cash cow, it comes with certain perks. Now the fact is, both of them were going to make a massive guarantee for this particular fight. Canelo was going to make a guaranteed 40 million, which is the most that he's ever made in his career, and Caleb Plant was about to make 10 million. I think previous to this, the most he's ever made was probably 500k to a million. So for him to make 10 million in one fight plus pay-per-view on top of that, so he's probably going to walk away with 12 million or 30 million. It's a huge payday for him. Now, what do I think has happened? I think, obviously, as I said in previous videos before, it's quite well documented that the PBC brand is under debt. Like, Al Heyman is in a desperate position. Now, why I think this particular negotiation fall through, obviously, none of us really are privy to what happens in terms of the negotiation table, in terms of these fighters. We don't know the demands that they're making, and obviously a lot of these negotiations happen behind closed doors for a reason. They don't want the public knowing about every demand that they're making and whatsoever. But my point is, I think it's possible that Canelo has obviously got himself in a position where he's demanding all the shots at this point in his career, and he's probably got himself into a position where he's thinking, why do I have to be subservient to promoters? I don't want to be subservient to no promoters. He's loving his free agency, and he's thinking in his own mind, like, I'll rather take one fight deals where I'm making the most amount of money. Like these networks and these promoters will bid and pay stupid amount of money to watch me fight because they know I'll bring in the money in terms of my marketability. and the fact is that they're willing to pay that, and they're going to outbid each other. So instead of him fighting and signing long-term promotional contracts, he decides to just be a free agent, make the promoters bid for his attention, give him the most amount of money that he can potentially get for a fight. And it's worked out handsomely, because think about it, PBC's offering him 40 million just for one fight. Now my point is this: the reason why I think it fell apart is I think Al Haymon's trying to get Canelo into a free fight contract with PBC, because free fights with Canelo would probably draw in 100 million, 150 million, and that could easily wipe out a lot of debts that the PBC and the Fox brand have. Obviously Canelo doesn't want that. Canelo wants to be a free agent. Canelo wants to be by himself. Canelo wants to have his autonomous. He wants to be autonomous and be able to do what he wants, and he enjoys his free agency. But it's up to him to Al Haymon to negotiate in a way where he would want to actually stay with the PBC stable and would want to be in a free fight deal. Now, what I think happened is that it's not likely that was going to happen, because of the fact that Canelo likes his free agency. So he's more than willing to walk away from a deal like this. Canelo obviously got other options. Caleb Plant is not his only option. He can easily go back to DAZN and get a fight with Bivol in the light heavyweight division. While Caleb Plant, even though he does have a bit of leverage because he does have the last belt that Canelo wants, Caleb Plant doesn't really have that many options. Where else is he going to make 10 million from? He's not going to make 10 million from fighting anyone else. So the fact is, in terms of who's got the leverage in this position, it's clearly Canelo. Even though the PBC does have a bit of leverage because they're willing to pay him 40 million, in terms of who has the true leverage is Canelo. Canelo's not the one that's in debt the way the PBC is. Canelo's not the one that's in a desperate situation the way the PBC is. Canelo can easily make 20, 30, 40 million fighting someone else. While, let's be real, Caleb Plant is not going to make that type of money. He's not going to make 10 million fighting who? Who's he going to make 10 million fighting? He's not going to make that type of money. It's just not going to happen. He's not a big enough star in his own right to make that type of money. He can only make that type of money if he was to fight. If he was to fight like a Canelo, that's the only way he can make that type of money. So, in my opinion, at this point in time, instead of trying to get Canelo into a long-term contract, I think Al Haymon should have just kept his cool and just said, you know what, I probably ain't going to be able to get him into a long-term contract. Why don't I just have one fight with him, see how it goes, and when we clear a bit of our debts with the profits from this one fight, we can easily try to negotiate with him again in the future and try to get him into a position where he wants to sign with us again. Now, in my opinion, that probably would have been the best way to go about it. Instead of trying to lock Canelo into a long-term contract, which he's not likely to sign because he likes being autonomous. I think that's exactly what he should have done. He should just he should know that Canelo has all the leverage at this point in time, and he's not afraid to use it. Canelo's the type of fighter that knows he's got leverage, and he's willing to walk away if he's not going to get what he wants. So, in my opinion, that's basically what should have happened. I think Al Haymon should have just bit the bullet and just said, you know what, let's just give him what he wants, and we could get the fight that we want, and then on top of that, in the future, we could renegotiate with him when the contract comes to an end. It's a one-fight deal, but we could renegotiate with him and ask him if he wants to sign with us again for another fight, and I think it could have potentially worked out. But now he's in a position where that's obviously not going to happen. And Canelo's in a position where he can easily walk away and make 20, 30, 40 million fighting someone else. So yeah, that's my opinion in terms of what I think happened. Obviously, we don't know for sure what happened. We don't know what really goes on behind closed doors when it comes to these negotiations, because they're kept secret for a reason. But I really do think that's what happened. But yeah, that's my opinion. Tell me your opinion. What do you think Canelo should do next? Do you think he should try to renegotiate and try to fight Caleb Plant? Maybe you want to see him go up to light heavyweight and fight Bivol and Bertabiev. But maybe you want to see him unify as well and become the first undisputed Mexican champion. Whatever you think, just like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace out.